In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, everybody? How's it going tonight? Thank you again for joining me for another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast. What did you all think about that new intro? I see Don liked it. Awesome. But man, I cannot take credit for that spectacular intro. The guy who did it for me, you guys know Josh, Official Urban. He's been on the show quite a few times here. Josh, if you are listening tonight, man, I got to tell you, thank you so much. I'm beyond words grateful for that intro, dude. It is the best intro I could ever ask for, I could ever hope for. So, dude, thank you. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart. Well, that is a little season 3 sneak peek for you guys. Also for season 3, tonight we're going to try to cap the show at 45 minutes, especially because it is a solo show. It is one of the last solo shows of season 2, and I'm just excited to be sitting down with you guys again, face to face, just us. Guests are fun. I know we had a lot of guests this season, a little bit more guests than season 1, but I just miss it. I miss sitting down, just me and you guys hanging out, going through this stuff, learning together. So, a couple of announcements real quick. Of course, I will be taking my normal break the last 2 weeks of December, but I have some recorded shows in store for you guys that I'll be playing. I'm not going to do it Christmas. It's going to be on Thursday as opposed to Wednesday because we have the holidays. And, I want all of you to be focused on your family and not me on Christmas and New Year's Day. So, we will have a pre-recorded show go down on the 26th of December, and we will have a pre-recorded show go down on the 2nd of January, and then we will be back for season 3 on January 8th with Mr. Corey Hughes of the podcast Understanding Propaganda. So I had Corey back on my show in season 1. Corey's a very smart guy. It's really cool to have him back on. I hung out with him at the Forbidden Knowledge Friendsgiving past weekend, and we're going to chop it up together and talk about some of the interesting things that are going on right now. And another announcement, guys, as you can tell, I've been a little bit more fiery lately than I normally have. There's with good reason. I'm now convinced that a lot of you, me included, all of us spiritual podcasters or, spiritual people creating content online or, excuse me, any even if you're just posting spiritual deep truths on X and Facebook and things like that, we're under some kind of weird attack. I made a post today on X. It seems like a lot of us are getting docked followers out of nowhere, especially because of the content that we post. It's very uplifting, it's very motivating, it's very positive. It teaches you that you can take control of your world and your destiny, and you have the power within you to achieve whatever you want. And there is a overall underlying divine nature to this reality. And it seems like we're all under attack right now. It's kind of shitty, but we saw this coming. We knew they would up their measures. And of course, we get frustrated during these times when they do this to us. So right now, guys, I think it's the time to support each other. We should be all out there supporting each other. We should be sharing each other's stuff. We should be engaging with each other's stuff. This is not an every man for himself or every man and woman for himself battle that we're dealing with right now, guys. We are a collective, and we need to be acting that way. And this is what's going to get us through these really intense spiritual attacks and spiritual warfare. that the powers that were, aka the parasite class, is trying to throw at us. So, the ego game has to be done right now. So all of you accounts, even you big follower accounts, maybe you should humble yourselves and start to support the smaller accounts. Cough, cough, Laura Faye. But anyways, nonetheless, another thing too, I'm going to bring up before we hop into hacking the simulation is this, guys. So, I'm not going to say I'm done with the Conscious Collective at this point in time. I never will be done with the Conscious Collective, but I'm going to move forward and I'm going to let the Conscious Collective catch up when they're ready and when they're healed enough. So, guys, I am starting something called the BG Collective. Yes, we are moving forward. So it is also called the Order of BG. No, this is not a cult, I promise, for all of you who are jumping up and down going, oh my God, he's starting a cult. No, I'm not leading anything and I'm not making you drink Kool-Aid. I will be starting a Discord server in 2025. I'm going to try and get some other stuff started also. So we can have a place to get together. Thanks, Cody. I appreciate that, man. Stay fiery. I really like that you and Kyle have been watching a lot. I appreciate that, you guys. We're going to start a Discord server and, potentially some other stuff where we can get together. We can be solution based. We can move forward. We can decide to stop spinning our wheels and we can actually start moving forward with solutions, sharing information in a good way. I'm trying to bring back civil discourse, civil dialectic, the whole 9 yards. Okay, so I am moving forward. The rest of the Conscious Collective is more than welcome to join when they're ready. But as of right now, I'm taking a small break from it because it's absolutely frustrating, and I'm sure a lot of you can resonate with me on that. So nonetheless, let's get started, guys. I put a lot of work into this show. This is going to be a very interesting show. In fact, I was inspired by my good friend, Mr. Don Rogers of March 4th Productions. We had here he is, Mr. Don Rogers, shooting a wave. We had our show last week when we were talking about deconstructing the simulation. And, it had me really thinking that we were onto something, the way we were kind of bouncing off of each other and we were kind of trying to break down this experience that we're all sharing and that we're all having. I think we've got something here. So first and foremost, though, we're going to dive a little bit into what simulation theory is. I know a lot of you know it. I have an article here. I am going to put my spin on the article because I don't believe it's a computer simulation as we know it. I think it's something a little bit different, but nonetheless, let's kind of touch base on what simulation theory is before we dive into what I'm talking about. So I'm going to bring up this page here, and this is from Built In. And this is called What is Simulation Theory? Living in a Computer Simulation. So simulation theory is not a new thing. It's been around for a little bit. It's had some refinements, throughout the years, different sections of the theory and vice versa. But nonetheless, let's kind of get into the bare basic definition of what simulation theory is. So we have simulation theory definition. Simulation theory is a theoretical hypothesis that says what people perceive as reality is actually an advanced, hyper-realistic computer simulation, possibly overseen by a higher being. So what is simulation theory? Simulation theory says that we are all likely living in an extremely powerful computer program directed by an entity outside of our physical comprehension. See, that I minutely agree with. Like I said, maybe not a computer as we know computers, but it's very possible that this could be something beyond, almost like an organic intelligence. And that's really the best way I can put it. But is it really organic too? We have to throw that question out there because, what I define as organic is we have cells, we have water, we have air that we breathe. It feels organic, it looks organic, it feels natural. But, we even have to kind of bring that up to ourselves. Is it really natural? Because, what we could be dealing is just a outward projection of the internal experience. So that's something I wanted to throw in there for you guys as well. So in this situation, humans are not necessarily real intangible beings, but instead predetermined coded constructs of the digital world we inhabit. I don't agree with that, but living in a simulation can be likened to living in a gigantic game of The Sims, except we ourselves are the characters inside the screen. So that's kind of just, a bare basic definition of what simulation theory is. So we're going to now dive into what I think could possibly be going on. But before that, I have a description I'd like you all to hear that I think is going to help you kind of gain the understanding on this. So just kind of sit with me as I go through this. We've all come to the understanding there is a huge internal aspect to our existence. Think of us as currents in a magnificent open sea of consciousness. Sarah, shout out to you for that one. Our currents, or our focal point of this sea of consciousness, is undergoing an organically simulated existence, which is an outward expression of the internal existence. Think of your thoughts, your actions, your frequency, what you consume in all areas. They are organic algorithms which interface with our organically simulated experience. When these algorithms interface with our simulated reality as they emanate from within, creating a different overall simulated experience. My point is, the simulation is hacked from within, not from without. If our externally simulated reality is an outward expression of our internal reality, the hacking starts there. When we seek to hack the simulation from without, we notice to no avail. We can't because there has not been a shift from within. So in order to come to a collective understanding, we must decondition ourselves from always looking without instead of looking within. So that is something I kind of wanted to bring up. We're going to kind of break down the conditioning in this episode as to why when we talk about hacking the simulation, it seems that the majority of our collective always starts to look without. They think that there is some device. They think that there is some kind of portal. They think that there is some external object that is external from you that is going to be the be-all, ends-all to hacking this simulation. It's not how it works, at least in my opinion. So where does this come from? This seems to be a huge Western concept and a lot of the westernized countries. We look at the United States of America, we look at Canada, we look at UK, we look at, a lot of these countries that in a sense have become westernized, and we're looking at supreme existentialism. We don't really see an esoteric aspect to, a lot of their outlook on reality. So I have a really cool article. We have from Kyle here. We have Alan Turing referred to people using his machines as the computers. Okay, heck yeah, I'm going to take note of that, man. We got Don Rogers again, the man who inspired this. I think we are a conscious projection of a higher dimensional being known as source, and our reality is experienced in real time like Grand Theft Auto. I'm not disagreeing with that, man. I'm not. That's a kind of a good way to put it. But nonetheless, let's talk about this Western conundrum, because it seems to be a very Western mentality. Because when we go to a lot of Eastern cultures, a lot of Eastern cultures, even in the westernized parts, still have this hint of esotericism to them. They're not focused on the without. They're not looking towards outward objects to hack the simulation. So I have a really cool article I want to bring up real quick, and we're going to we're going to dive a little deep into this article, but it actually talks about how the West at a time was actually a spiritual revolution. Yes, it might not seem that way right now, but in the beginning it was. So we have the spiritual origins of the West, a lack perspective. So we're going to dive a little bit deep into this, and we're going to kind of talk about some of the aspects of this article, because we have to break down the conditioning. And even though a lot of us here, we do the work, we do the healing, we do the inner work and things like that, we still have this subconscious programming, which is a bitch to remove. Trust me, I've been at it for a long time. I'm doing good, but it's still kind of a bitch to remove. So but we have to start there, because even though we all consciously know the answer, that the simulation is hacked from within and not without, we still have that subconscious programming that still, in some ways, will consciously push us looking outwards. So let's kind of dive into this just a little bit and kind of get on the ball with this. So every time a society finds itself in crisis, it instinctively turns its eyes towards its origins and looks for a sign. And that's by Octavio Paz. And I like that, because when you really look at this right here, I mean, this is exactly what's happening right now. We are in a crisis. It's not the end of the world crisis, but we are in a crisis, and we need to address that. So the more we learn about other civilizations, the more anomalous the West seems. If we resist the presumption that Western culture is the growing tip of social evolution to be contrasted with the stagnation of non-Western ones, what becomes highlighted is its dynamism, for better and for worse. So the one thing I want you guys to take a look at here, and I want you guys to think about, are we really at the tip of social evolution? I'm going to disagree with that statement, because if you look at us here in Western society, what do we put on a pedestal? We put egotism, we put narcissism, we put psychopathy, we put sociopathy. We thrive in disharmony from our natural state and our true nature. We're absolutely horrible to each other on a regular basis. I mean, I dealt with it on X when I replied to a post. Nobody wanted to believe that I work out for 2 hours every morning, and they said I must hate myself and I must hate my family. It was actually pretty funny. I kind of laughed at it. It was. I was like, okay, like your comment was kind of funny, so I'll entertain you. But nonetheless, are we really at the highest curve of social evolution here in the West? I don't think we are. For the sheer fact of what I just explained. We put the dark triad behavior traits on a pedestal. We thrive in disharmony from our true nature and our true origin. We're absolutely horrible to each other. And I don't think we're at any kind of heightened curve of social evolution at all here in the West. I think that is a complete and utter fucking illusion. But nonetheless, let's kind of dive into the article a little bit more. So rather than trying to account for the underdevelopment of non-Western societies, why they did not evolve further along our path, it is the apparently self-generated and future-driven progress of the West that needs to be explained. What caused it? We cannot simply point to the Renaissance, for that rebirth is itself the effect to be explained. What caused the Renaissance? Intellectuals at the time were inspired by the rediscovery of ancient texts, so take note of that. But in no sense was the Renaissance a return to the classical period. It was a revolution which, like all revolutions, misunderstood itself to be restoring some pristine condition, long lost in the past, yet in fact was creating something quite new. In most ways, the pre-modern West was not very different from many other civilizations of its time, but we must find something within the Middle Ages themselves to account for how the modern West originated. So I'm going to get into this just a little bit more, but of course, I'm not going to bore you guys with the whole article. If you want, I have all the links in the descriptions as usual, if you want to take a look at that. It turns out that answering this question will also shed light on another almost important, the origins of Western law. The basic issue here is not only the development of legal codes, but more the curious problem of the law's authority. Today, we take for granted the peaceful transfer of power which occurs whenever the ruling party of a democratic nation is defeated at the polls. Yet, this contrasts starkly with what still occurs in many parts of the non-Western world, where the powers that be lack respect for such a political process and often subvert it. We say that in such countries, the rule of law is weak, which prompts us to wonder, from where does the law get its authority? Why do we respect it and yield to it? According to Harold Berman, law in all societies derives its authority from something outside of itself. So this is where it begins. This is where the conditioning begins. Law is a very good place for this because, number one, we're deriving authority from something outside of ourselves. Berman Law and Revolution, the formation of Western legal tradition. So we're going to drop off of that article there for now. But this is exactly what I'm saying. Look at when we look at Western culture, we also have to understand, number one, we're not at the tip of the social curve at all. I think we're kind of regressing socially. And we constantly look for an authority that is outside of ourselves, when in all reality, the authority is within us. And a lot of us here tonight who are tuning in and listening know this. So how do we continue to break this conditioning? I have one more article we're going to kind of tune into when it comes to this. So let's go down here. So we have spirituality versus materialism, East versus West. So, of course, here in the Western world, we have a very materialist perspective. Everything is matter. Everything is material. Everything is finite. Everything lacks consciousness. We're supposedly just a bunch of walking meat suits that have these electrical impulses firing in us that cause us to think, cause us to feel, cause us to move. Nonetheless, the mental gymnastics there are astounding. But let's dive just a little bit into this article before we start breaking down this simulation hack. We have to remove the conditioning in order to understand the hack. So, nonetheless, let's dive into this. Spirituality versus materialism, East versus West. From before the time of Swami Vivekananda, it has been a truism for many, both East and West, that India represents and embodies spiritually, and the West represents and embodies materialism. That is, the core values and goals of Indian civilization are spiritual, and the core values and goals of the West are materialistic. Okay, so look at that right there. So we see a very difference in these cultures throughout the world. And in a lot of these Eastern cultures, we have this very spiritual goal. Family, a wonderful and abundant life. Okay. A deep connection with the divine. A lot of people in the Eastern countries, I know some people are going to debate me on the more westernized Eastern countries, but still, like I said, there is a smidge of that still there. This spiritual, esoteric dynamic that exists that the West has seemed to do without. I have many reasons as to why I think this is. I do believe there was a ploy on our education and a lot of our science, and that's why a lot of people call Darwinism Freemasonic science, which I do believe it is. I'm not going to go into my rant about Darwinism. You guys have heard me on this show go off about it probably a few times, but know that I understand it very, very well, and I understand it well to the point where I can tell you it's bullshit. So nonetheless, let's keep going. So this was Swami Vivekananda's own conviction, broadly stated. Like all generalizations, it is an oversimplification. For practical purposes, it can be useful to look in greater detail at both India and the West. So that is something I wanted to bring up just momentarily there to just kind of show the difference between this. So, I mean, guys, the materialism and the existentialism, I'm not saying it's bad to have existentialism. I mean, it's okay to try to grasp, the understanding of the world around you, but at the same time, that understanding of the world around you is going to be found within you as well. The biggest hack to hacking this potential organic simulation that we are apparently or supposedly experiencing at this point in time is going to be the understanding that the internal existence takes precedence over the external existence. And I think this is something a lot of people still, in the conscious collective are having a hard time understanding. And when I say it takes prevalence over the external existence, in that sense, it needs to be balanced, but it should be taken more seriously than the external existence. And this is why I'm going to show you this. So let's look up why our internal existence is so important. And I have a article from Psychology Today, which, Psychology Today, even though they can get a little bit left sometimes, they do some really good stuff. So I'm going to bring this one up. So the reality of the inner experience and why it matters. Qualia show there's more to reality than spatiotemporal mechanics. So this is something also we have to take into consideration, guys. One common way to dismiss someone's concerns is to tell them it's all in your head. If the person is projecting their personal issues into a situation where they aren't relevant, this response could be appropriate. However, our society tends to dismiss the relevance of what's in our heads, even when it's of the utmost importance. For instance, when it comes to discerning the very meaning of our existence, our science-oriented culture places value on things that can be studied objectively. That is, things that can be observed by more than one person at a time. In fact, repeated observations by multiple investigators is generally how we confirm that something is real. Nevertheless, there is no innate connection between how many people can observe a thing and how real it is. Consider, for example, the sensation of pain. When you feel pain, this is an experience that is private to you. No one else is experiencing your pain, only you are. Other people may observe your wincing or moaning or writhing in agony, but those are the effects of your pain they're observing, not the pain itself. Even a scientist who is able to peer into the inner workings of the neurons that are correlated with your pain would not be able to observe the sensation of pain itself. That is a private experience, accessible only to you, the person who is having it. Does that make it unreal? I think you would be hard-pressed to convince anyone who is enduring intense physical pain that it's not. Another point in the favor of the reality of such experiences is the fact that they are the necessary starting point for all our knowledge about the world that lies beyond our experiences. So this is something very important here, guys. Another point in favor of the reality. This sentence hits it home for me in a lot of ways because, when we look at materialism and the way it's driven, everything has to be objective. That's why panpsychism really pisses materialist scientists off, because it destroys an objective reality. They have no objective reality or framework to work from, and it drives them mad, and they try to do everything they potentially can to fight it. But again, we've seen time and time again in these scientific institutions, mental gymnastics take place to keep up a current narrative. This is just how it is. So nonetheless, let's get back to the article. So for instance, how do I know that there is a desk in front of me now? Because I am having certain visual and tactile experiences of a desk. And if I believe that the desk I'm experiencing is real and not just a hallucination, it's because these experiences I'm having of a desk continue predictably over time and also cohere with the experiences that other people communicate to me. So that kind of lines up into a theory I've had, and I'm going to run it by you guys real fast. So, let's say that, okay, nobody knows what a tree is. This one person doesn't know what a tree is, right? Let's say that this person has never seen a tree or has never heard of a tree. And so he walks up, he sees a tree. He doesn't know it's a tree, but it renders into this reality as a tree. Okay. And then somebody comes along and asks, hey, somebody comes along and he asks, he's like, hey, what is this? And they go, well, this is a tree. Okay. So he had no idea it was a tree. He didn't know what a tree looked like, but if we were looking from an objective point of view or in a third party point of view, when he looked at the tree, it viewed as somebody who would know what a tree is. This is how he saw the tree. So what I believe happens in these instances is we borrow the knowledge from the human collective consciousness. And this is what renders our reality into these common and familiar forms. So this could very well potentially be the way this organic simulation works, is that we do essentially share some kind of collective consciousness that has these archetypal forms and potentially, these different perspectives of things that have been viewed or witnessed, touched, tactile, sense, perceived, and these can be downloaded into our consciousness when we experience something that we as a person have not maybe experienced or seen before, but the collective has. So that's just a little theory I'm going to throw out there about that one. But nonetheless, let's kind of dive a little bit more into this article. The point is that none of us have any information about the reality of this desk or any other physical object except what comes to us through the medium of our own inner experience. So that just kind of solidified everything I just said there, guys. Our first person experiences are our necessary epistemic starting point, the thing about which we have the most certainty. We can then infer them the reality of physical objects, but our knowledge of the reality of physical objects is dependent on our knowledge of the reality of our experience. If our experience isn't real, we have no justification for believing in the reality of the physical world either. So I'm going to have to say that is a real slam dunk article by Psychology Today when discussing this. So this is this is the steps to removing this conditioning, is we have to understand the inner experience is very important. It's not something to be negated. And real quick, we're going to glance over this one real fast, because I said that our internal and our external worlds have to be balanced, despite, having a overlying importance on, I guess you could say, the internal experience. So let's go here. I think, here we go. So why is it so important that our internal and external experiences are aligned? So this is a Medium article, but I'm going to just glance over it with you guys for a little bit because I think it's pretty insightful. A lot of you know Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist and professor at Stanford School of Medicine, often discusses the alignment or lack thereof between our internal and external states. When these states don't match, it can signal underlying issues. Let's explore this concept. Huberman emphasizes that our internal state, how we feel, our energy levels, mental well-being, should align with our external demands, tasks, responsibilities, and goals. When they don't align, it can lead to symptoms like depression or feeling low on energy. Imagine feeling exhausted but needing to perform at your peak. This mismatch affects our overall well-being. I know how that is. The alignment between our internal and external experiences is important for several reasons, touching on aspects of mental health, personal integrity, and social harmony. Remember what we just talked about. In the West right now in America, we are in a state of disharmony. So we want to get back to that harmony, that social harmony. So we have psychological well-being. Number one, I think that's really important to all of us, when we're talking about this, our psychological well-being, when there's a strong alignment between how we feel internally and how we express ourselves externally, it can lead to greater psychological well-being. Absolutely. We're living in our purpose. We're living in alignment at that point in time. So, it's very important. So, the next one, which is one of my favorites, and you guys have seen me, post about this a lot lately on a lot of social media, is authenticity. Something that a lot of people here in the West really lack. But let's try and bring it back, everybody. Being authentic means that our actions and expressions accurately reflect our truth, thoughts, feelings, and values. When our internal and external experiences are aligned, we live more authentically, which is associated with higher self esteem, better mental health outcomes, and more fulfilling relationships. So I wanted to go off on those two with you guys. But, we have relationships, we have decision making, we have social integration, we have mental health stigma, personal growth. I think personal growth is one of the best things in the world. I enjoy personal growth. And but this is what our alignment between our internal and our external existences can help us with and be more efficient at our personal growth. So now we're getting into the juicy stuff. We've kind of gone through, the removal of the conditioning. We talked about how we in the West have this subconscious conditioning to look without for authority or ways to hack the simulation. But at this point, now we're getting to the good stuff. So I have a really good article I'm going to bring up about how the mind is not brain dependent, but a field that interacts with our brain. Yes, this is a really awesome article that I really did a lot of work for this show tonight, you guys, because I want to break this down in a way where you all understand. So, nonetheless, let's get to it. So, this is Science and Non-Duality we have here. A new theory of consciousness. The mind exists as a field connected to the brain. So, a lot of you out there who feel that consciousness is not brain dependent, everybody that's not Elon Musk, who thinks in order to save consciousness, we need to go to Mars and build these very techno transhumanist cities and merge with machines and all that. We don't need to do that. There's other ways to save consciousness. And this is a good way to start. By saving consciousness, by understanding that our consciousness is something greater than just what's in our brain. So we have, between quantum physics and neuroscience, a theory emerges of a mental field we have, existing in another dimension and behaving in some ways like a black hole. The relationship between the mind and the brain is a mystery that is central to how we understand our very existence as sentient beings. Some say the mind is strictly a function of the brain. Consciousness is the product of firing neurons, but some strive to scientifically understand the existence of a mind independent of, or at least to some degree, separate from the brain. The peer-reviewed scientific journal Neuroquantology brings together neuroscience and quantum physics, an interface that some scientists have used to explore this fundamental relationship between the mind and the brain. An article published in September 2017 edition of Neuroquantology reviews and expands upon the current theories of consciousness that arise from the meeting of neuroscience and quantum physics. Dr. Dirk K.F. Mayer, a professor at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands, hypothesizes that consciousness resides in a field surrounding the brain. This field is in another dimension. It shares information with the brain through quantum entanglement, among other methods, and it has certain similarities with a black hole. This field may be able to pick up on information from the Earth's magnetic field, dark energy, and other sources. I have a bone to pick with dark energy. I'm not getting into that now, but let's just say they are really doing mental gymnastics to prove its existence. But nonetheless, it then transmits wave information into the brain tissue. That is instrumental in high-speed conscious and subconscious information processing, Dirk wrote. In other words, the mind is a field that exists around the brain. It picks up information from outside the brain and communicates it to the brain in an extremely fast process. He described this field alternatively as a holographic structured field, a receptive mental workspace, a metacognitive domain, and the global memory space of an individual. Now, I think this is really cutting edge. I don't know about you all, okay, but I think this is amazing to be and I didn't think we'd be seeing stuff this quickly. So in a lot of ways, I do think that we could potentially have an acceleration occurring right now, because to see an article like this that's coming from a peer-reviewed journal is kind of mind-blowing in a sense, because you're looking you're looking at this and you're like, holy shit, all of these esoteric concepts that we've been learning, we've been studying, for all of these years, that we've put our faith and our belief in, because on the inside we have the understanding that we know this to be true. I'm glad you like it, Don. Hell yeah. No, I know this is really awesome, dude. I'm like happier than a pig in shit over here right now, because this is really awesome. And so to see something like this is fantastic. I can't send my praises enough, because as we continue to go a little bit further, more and more physics is going to prove that esotericism is real. And that's just my opinion, but based on the looks of things right now, we can see that this is definitely a potential thing happening. So I'm definitely happy about this. Extremely rapid functions of the brain, suggest it processes information through a mechanism not yet revealed. So I'm wondering if the soul or the focal point has anything to do with that, but that's where we're getting into speculation, but still it could be. There's an unsolved mystery in neuroscience called the binding problem. Different parts of the brain are responsible for different things. Water break, guys, hold on. Some parts work on processing color, some on processing sound, etc. But it somehow all comes together as a unified perception or consciousness. Information comes together and interacts in the brain more quickly than can be explained by our current understanding of neurotransmissions in the brain. It thus seems the mind is more than just neurons firing in the brain. So, guys, I'm going to dive into my next article before we kind of start to sum it up for tonight. I guess we are going to hit an hour on this one, but this is juicy. We got a lot going on. So nonetheless, like I say, guys, I always have the links to all of these websites. You can read all of this stuff for yourself at the bottom of my Rumble and my YouTube video descriptions. So if you guys are watching on X, just hop on over to Rumble or YouTube and you can find any of these websites that I'm discussing tonight. So I'm going to bring this one up momentarily. I've talked about it on the show before. I actually did a whole episode on it, and all of you who have been with me for a while know how passionate I am about it. That last article is leading us into panpsychism. For those who are just joining and they don't know what panpsychism is one of the up-and-coming theories in quantum physics, where consciousness is the prime fundamental of reality. We have the implicate, which is the observer, and then the explicate, which is the perceived external experience. And that consciousness is a necessary component for a physical universe to exist. So I have an article from Scientific American here, and I did bring this up in one of my other episodes, and I'm going to just glance over it a little bit with you. But nonetheless, I do think that this is super important. So let's go here. Oh, it looks like I did not send that link to myself. Well, nonetheless, that is okay. Oh, never mind, I did. Oh, just kidding. Here we go. All right. Is consciousness part of the fabric of the universe? A theory called panpsychism proposes that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of reality. So this is all going to get summed up, guys. This is all going to come full circle at the end. So nonetheless, we have more than 400 years ago, Galileo showed that many everyday phenomena, such as a ball rolling down an incline or a chandelier gently swinging from a church ceiling, obey precise mathematical laws. For this insight, he is often hailed as the founder of modern science. But Galileo recognized that not everything was amendable to a quantitative approach. Such things as colors, tastes, and smells are no more than mere names, Galileo declared, for they reside only in consciousness. These qualities aren't really out there in the world, he asserted, but exist only in the minds of the creatures that perceive them. Hence, if the living creature were removed, he wrote, all these qualities would be wiped away and annihilated. Exactly, Mr. Newton. That is one thing you did do right. Or Galileo. Since Galileo's time, the physical sciences have leaped forward. explaining the workings of the tiniest quarks to the largest galaxy clusters, but explaining things that reside only in consciousness, the red of a sunset, say, or the bitter taste of a lemon, has proven far more difficult. Neuroscientists have identified a number of neural correlates of consciousness, brain states associated with specific mental states, but have not explained how matter forms minds in the first place. As philosopher Colin McGinn put in a 1989 paper, somehow we feel the water of the physical brain is turned into the wine of consciousness. I actually really like that. Philosopher David Chalmers famously dubbed this quandary the hard problem of consciousness. Scholars recently gathered to debate the problem at Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York, during a 2-day workshop focused on an idea known as panpsychism. The concept proposes that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of reality, like mass or electrical charge. The idea goes back to antiquity. Plato took it seriously and has had some prominent supporters over the years, including psychologist William James and philosopher mathematician Bertrand Russell. Lately, it is seeing renewed interest, especially following the 2019 publication of Philip Goff's book, Galileo's Era, which argues forcefully for the idea. Goff of the University of Durham, England, organized the recent event along with Marist philosopher Andrei Bukharev, and it was funded through a grant from the John Templeton Foundation. In a small lecture hall with floor-to-ceilings windows overlooking the Hudson River, roughly 24 scholars probed the possibility that perhaps it's consciousness all the way down. So, guys, I'm going to leave off on this article for now, but nonetheless, I think we're painting a huge picture here, right? We're painting this picture on how our existence, we have conditioning that teaches us to look outside of us, teaches us to look without for a hack to the simulation or a potential authority or a god or a deity on the outside of us. This is a Western concept that we've been conditioned with here in the West since we were born, especially with religion. Religion tells you to look into the sky at a god, even though Jesus Christ says the kingdom of God is within you and without you. I think we're summing up a huge picture here. If we look at all of the religions and the spiritualities, just like I said, the Gospel of Thomas, what Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is within you and without you. So how can we interpret that? That the kingdom of heaven is located within, and it is also located without. Our external perceived existence is nothing but a projection of what's inside of us. That is why heaven and hell are states of consciousness. Whatever your state of consciousness is within is going to project into your life without. That's the bottom line. And we're even looking at peer-reviewed scientific journals at this point. Did an orb just fly by my camera? Let me know, all of you that are watching, if someone can rewind, because I just saw something that was really weird. But nonetheless, we have peer-reviewed scientific journals now discussing the very things that people like you and I have been discussing for years. Okay, we are here. We're at the precipice, guys. All right, this is something really, really good. All right, if anything good is going on right now, it's definitely this. So what I'm going to say is this. The first step, the very first step to hacking the simulation is doing it from within. Okay, how do we do it from within? Well, you remember, I said the algorithms. Think of your thoughts, your actions, your frequency, what you consume. And what I mean by what you consume, the content that you consume, the food that you consume, the water that you consume, the music that you consume, the activities that you partake in. Okay? All of these have to do with hacking the simulation. Escaping. Thanks for that, Don. I don't know. I saw something. I could have just been my hair because it's getting long and I need a haircut. But thank you for verifying. But what we consume, what we do. Okay, so escaping the matrix or escaping the societal Maya is not done in the way Andrew Tate tells you. Okay, it's not done by focusing solely on money and materialistic goods. Okay, to get yourself to this state of where you don't have to abide by the rules that normal people have to anymore because of your accrued wealth. You can do that without doing that. You can do that without selling your soul to the materialism. Okay, and I'm going to tell you exactly how. When you increase in frequency and you increase in your evolution, your spiritual evolution, you are going to come to find that you are no longer subjected to certain laws or rules in the matrix. Now, hold on before you guys get your panties in a bunch. Of course, if you kill somebody, if you steal from somebody, okay, if you rape somebody, you do anything like that, this all goes out the window and you regress. But what I mean is if you continue to do right by yourself, right by your loved ones, your family, your friends, and do right by other human beings, you are going to have absolutely nothing to fear and nothing to worry about. I guarantee you, if you continue to live this way, you're probably not going to be putting up with a lot of the other bullshit that people who partake in the consensual third density reality put up with. Okay. This in and of itself is leaving the matrix, guys. I mean, this is it. Okay, this is truly it. You control what you consume. Okay, all right. You learn how to have non-attachment with your thoughts, and you learn how to cultivate the good thoughts that assist you in manifesting a joyful, abundant, and prosperous life. Okay, your actions, we have purposeful intention. Okay, this purposeful intention is the hammer and the chisel to get yourself out of the simulation. You understand what I mean here, guys? Like, to me, I guess what I'm saying, and I'll digress after all, we need to completely throw away the concept that hacking the simulation is going to be done through some form of technology, that it's going to be done. Well, consciousness is a technology, so we'll leave that out there. Maybe that form of technology, but not the kind of technology that you're thinking. All right. And your frequency radiating in a frequency of joy and abundance. Okay. And doing right by yourself and others. Okay, what you consume, what are you watching? Are you watching divisive shit that's pitting you against other people in the community? Or are you watching things like Academy of Ideas, after school? Like, I can give you at least freaking 5 things off the top of my head that you can consume that are going to help you get the hell out of the simulation or the matrix or societal Maya or whatever you want to call it. Okay, bottom line, this is step 1. We have to refine ourselves. We have to decondition ourselves as a collective and as human beings to look outside for the answers. Okay, that's the first thing that's got to go. And then when you do that to the fullest extent and you remove the majority of that subconscious conditioning, you then will hack the simulation. And I can guarantee you that. I'm going to give you a little bit of my experience before we sign off. Ever since I started following these steps, ever since I started implementing everything that I'm talking about into my life, all of the people who have met me, who have spent time with me, will all sit down and vouch to all of you that yes, Steve lives this way. This is exactly how he lives. He practices what he preaches, okay, like 100-fold. Okay, ever since I started implementing this, I have left the matrix. I have left the simulation. I am in a different reality at this point in time, but I exist here with everybody else because my timeline is interacting with everybody else's timeline. And I don't have to worry about a lot of the small things anymore, the petty, minute things that a lot of people who partake. I'm not in a state of fear at all. In fact, some people might call it a double-edged sword. I might be too fearless, but can we be too fearless if that's the case? And I've seen this work for myself. Okay. And now the one thing that I will say before we get out of here tonight is my way and my method might not exactly work for you, but you can take my method and you could put your own spin on it in a way that resonates with you. And in that way, you are going to find that maybe I'm onto something here. So nonetheless, guys, the first step in the guideline to hacking the simulation is undoing the subconscious programming. That this hack from the simulation is going to come from something outside of you. The hack already exists within you. You just have to realize it's there. And that's where I'm going to leave it for everybody tonight. Guys, I had a blast tonight with this one of the last solo shows of the season. It was cool to sit down, just you and I, just hang out, talk, get to know each other even more on a personal basis, man, because the number one truth is, man, I truly do care about all of you. Like, damn seriously, man. I really do. And I want to see us succeed. I do. And the way to succeed is we have to remove this conditioning. We have to understand that we're all in this together. This egotism in our community needs to stop. And until it does, that's why I've started the BG Collective. And that's why, guys, stay tuned for 2025. The BG Collective is coming. All of you who want to be a part of it can be a part of it. And I'm not leading shit. We're all walking together in the same line, doing this together. And that's the way I want it. Because I want us all to learn how to lead ourselves. I don't want to lead you. That's a fucking huge responsibility. And that is an ineffable responsibility to me at this point. But I want to help you learn so we can help each other. And I'll leave it at that. Alrighty, guys. Thanks again for joining me for another BG-Cast Wednesday Live podcast. Next week, we will have BG-Cast Common Ground dropping. Due to my success with Kyle and Cody, thanks again for being here tonight, you two. I really dig it that you guys take time out of your day to sit and watch me. Much appreciated. I hope you guys learned something tonight. And sitting down with two people of, opposing views and opinions of myself, I decided that maybe this is where we can begin. So I have next week, I'm going to have a few people on, all with opposing opinions. I will be the medium. All right. Because you know me, my personal philosophy is anarchist. I don't like the bipartisan system, but what we're going to attempt to do is we're going to try to find some common ground. This is where it starts. This is where the healing begins. Okay, we are going to find a way to make everybody have some kind of unified front in this country. So we stand strong and we take the power back in our hands because it's time. All right, guys, have a good night. Thanks for joining me. If you liked what you heard tonight, go ahead and give a like, a subscribe. I'll really appreciate it since my socials have been under attack due to my content. And if this was your first time checking me out tonight, you should be asking, why the fuck are this man's socials under attack? I'm asking the same question as well as many other people. So, guys, I'll see you next Wednesday. Y'all have a great night. Take care. Much love. And remember, it all comes and starts from within.